Everyone, welcome to another Sales Wisdom podcast called Email Edition, Outreach Edition. We have Daniel Greaves with us. He's founder, CEO at Fuel to Fly, an agency that is somewhat similar to mine, outreach agency located in South Africa. So lots of wisdom is going to be dropped today. Daniel, can you tell us a bit more about yourself and a bit more about Fuel to Fly?
Yeah, cool. Charles, really cool to be here. And thanks so much for having me. It's awesome to be here on the podcast. Yeah, I think a little bit about myself. I started out in the finance space, in stockbroking, and there it was a little bit different. I was in sales, but we already had existing customers being like your asset managers. And that was like where the beginning of the outreach began. Reaching out to them on a consistent basis about every time there was like a new stock idea or a new trading idea. And back then it was like Microsoft Word and mail merge that I was using. This was like 2016. And then from then on it was, I kind of stayed in the broking space. I moved into property, like commercial property broking, and then finally into the startup tech world. And each time just like kind of refining. It just felt like outbound was so manual and had so much guesswork behind it. And starting out in finance, everything was always about like financial data and based on all these metrics. And I was like, I should definitely apply this to stuff to
Sales.
To sales.
That's interesting background right there. I have so many questions first. I'm really glad to have you on. So first, did you started the agency solo dolo or did you have co-founders?
So I did start it solo. Hey, like I had a small amount of funding from like a friend of a friend. We did the deal over a beer at a bar, and we're still very close today. And that was basically enough to kind of cover my own personal expenses for like 6 months. And it was I had 6 months to like quit my job and give this a go. And they gave me a desk in the office, and it was just me by myself there, trying to make it happen. And that was like from scratch. I had like a computer and an empty desk, and I somehow got the fueltofly.com domain name for like $8 on GoDaddy. So it was just me and that, and then one thing led to the next. We were hit by COVID like 2 months into starting the business. That was quite cool because then I officially had nothing else to do except
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Fuel to Fly, good one. I like it. Surprising that you got the .com, pretty good pick. Me back in these days, I was mostly focusing on realtors, doing Facebook ads for them. And when COVID hit, the shit hit the fan because they couldn't do visits at home. They couldn't get in properties, literally. So how do you work, right? How do you make money when that happens? And realtors being who they are, they just started cutting on everything. Why keep on advertising? And these folks are pretty much like live by the day and buy a Lamborghini as soon as they have 200K in their bank account.
Be careful, there's gonna be some realtors listening here.
Oh yeah, well they might be different there, but yeah. Because in Quebec, I have some kind stuff to a minority of them because I've been working with them for like 5 to 6 years. Definitely a good starter as a clientele, but not stable fuel that will bring you to the long run. So anyway, I learned my lessons there, but the point is that from one day to the next, I had no businesses. Everything stopped. It restarted obviously like a month or two, but it was so unstable. Government would decide this, then that, and with 2 family members, like now 3, you can go outside, now you cannot. And that like disrupted my whole business, and I knew I had to change. And that's where I switched officially to like LinkedIn outreach and cold email for another class of folks. So but you had it good during COVID. It brought you to like laser focus mode, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's super interesting that you had like a real estate niche. And like I feel like so many things happen in COVID that just like affected so much change now, like everyone with their hybrid workspaces. And I remember like the property space here in South Africa like plummeted because in our main city, or like the main business city, Johannesburg, there was already known to be like an oversupply of office space. So COVID just like decimated the property industry there. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
nice. Um, we had COVID pretty hard. They banned alcohol and cigarettes. So yeah, it was like buying alcohol. You had to do like a sneaky deal. But yeah, what you mentioned, I had nothing else to do. Like in South Africa, we have quite a big barbecue culture. We call it a braai.
Mm.
And so I was just working and barbecuing. That was and not leaving home. So it was cool.
South Africa is such a special place. We're gonna come back to that, but yeah, concerning real estate and commercial real estate, I still cannot wrap my mind around why these folks are still surviving. You know, we've seen it with WeWork, the catastrophic failures, and so much empty space. In my mind, you know, it's like, hey, convert it into condos, into residential stuff, but no, they just keep on hustling. Maybe it's because they've got like huge funds, right, from working with like big companies, big players for that much long. Obviously they've got huge relationships with the bank, and I think it's mostly that banks still attach themselves to the belief that, I mean, it's true up to this day, but I don't think it will be for long, that yeah, real estate is a nice collateral and you can always pick it back up, you know. But I have weird thesis about the world, and I think that yeah, with everything that's happening right now, people working from home, but also VR and all of these, I don't think real estate is gonna be a stable value in the next decade or two. What do you think?
Yeah, I think yeah, the office world is super different, and like you get a lot of companies calling people back to office. To be honest, I like the kind of hybrid work space. Like what we do is we have 7 people. I mean, our team is 13. We have 7 that live in Cape Town, and then we have like a shared office space in Cape Town. But in that office, there's only 4 desks, and
Yeah.
it's like come and go if you want to work at the office. And surprisingly, pretty much those 4 desks are full most days. And
Mm.
so we have some people that just do not come into the office at all. They just work at home, and that's completely fine as long as they're doing their jobs.
Mm.
But I think like for me, I've always been interested in industrial property, like warehousing that's
Yeah.
close to like your harbors and your airports, because number one, like there's so much more people, so much more goods moving around, like people buying online and things like that. And the nice thing about if you own an industrial property is it's a box. You don't
Mm.
have to worry about keeping the pool clean. You
Yeah.
don't have to worry about anything. It's just a box.
Yeah, true. Um, and regarding what I was mentioning for the real estate trends, you know, like if population is declining, why build new construction other than the fact that yeah, people are hooked with the consumerism culture and always want the new. But my thesis is that yeah, like there's so many buildings around us, you know, so, and there's all these trends like vertical building and so forth, not to talk about people that are gonna literally visit another planet in like 50 to 100 years. Maybe that will change the trends, and yeah, there will be construction on Mars. Elon's gonna own most of it, but I just think that real estate, there's a very large supply, and I also think that younger gens, they won't think like us, you know. For them, I don't think owning a house will be important. I don't even think having a family will be interesting for them. So with all these societal changes, these macro movements, I just think real estate is not a good long-term investment. But obviously BlackRock and all these huge funds would tell me that I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a thing of like people, they continue to do what they know, and like real estate development is driven by like
Correct.
the biggest developers, and what they know is historically they do big developments, they lease the space, they make the money, and they're not going to stop. They're
Correct.
not going to stop, and they've been through so many bad times, and these guys are guys that have seen economic downturns, and for them they just continue riding the roller coaster. It's like with us, if we see shit hit the fan, we're not going to all of a sudden say, okay, cool, we're not going to do cold email anymore.
Yeah.
Like it'll take us, if like let's say something drastic happened in the cold outreach world,
Like
we wouldn't
Google starting their email marketing.
yeah, like the Google's Gmail API. Jeez, don't get me started. Um, but like if something drastic happened in the cold email world, you and I would probably try and figure out like all these alternatives about how we could still keep cold email going before finally like throwing in
Right.
the towel and doing something else.
Yeah,
So I
of
think
course.
people being resistant to change.
Yeah, no, you're right. In our case, I think we're in the sales field, and the sales field is like a motor that, which is by the way related with marketing. So I think it's pretty much anti-fragile. I think what would change a space for us would not necessarily be cold email, because it's such a stable technology that is not prone to change any decade soon. It's so stable. But yeah, like some people control it. Some folks are trying to control the internet as well. But I think, yeah, AI might disrupt it. If say that there are AI salespeople for incredibly cheap, why would they need you and I? Which is why, yeah, we might want to get into this ourselves, develop ourselves into SaaS and have a piece of the pie there. But we're in a somewhat agile and very much adaptable space, right? These folks, like you said, well, literally they are planted in the ground, right? They have buildings that won't budge, won't move for quite a while. By the way, they need to maintain these buildings. It's kind of costly. And yeah, these buildings are kind of representations of their ego as well, and their lack of flexibility, I think. But yeah, I think yes, the industry is bound to change. It has been changed. As mentioned, like when COVID hit, like me, I was adaptable, and I still think adaptability is one of the best skill that folks can cultivate nowadays. For example, with Fuel to Fly, pertaining to cold email, I'm guessing you guys also do LinkedIn outreach. Or first, like, who's in charge of innovation, and what are your thoughts on focusing on one thing vs diversifying in the case that shit hits the fan?
Yeah, so our like the people who drive innovation is, I mean, I would say like I do drive a lot of the innovation, but much of the decision making always goes through to staff as well. Like, because sometimes, I mean, I read this post the other day, is like you have to be careful not to over innovate, and I think that was something I was doing a lot of last year. I was like changing one thing and then another thing and another thing, and
Hmm.
everything was just changing too much. And then also like we have some other people in the business that also give me some really, really good ideas. So
Nice.
I think like I do drive a lot of the innovation, but we've built quite a nice culture that promotes that as well. And up until now, we've only focused on email as a channel, and that's just because of my like data obsession. You can't email, you've got the most metrics available to you, as opposed to like LinkedIn. You can't really get an open rate with LinkedIn. You can't use tracking links. I mean, tracking pixels. There's a lot you can't do, and LinkedIn's already got its own like limitations as to the amount of connections you can add a week. Can you log in on someone's account from the other side of the world? So there's so many limitations with LinkedIn, which is why we kind of didn't. I mean, we've played with it, but we never doubled down. We are looking to move. We are going to move into calling though. We're having a lot of discussions to incorporate that because
Love it.
also something that I think just isn't going to die.
Yeah.
And then the other way we are thinking, we haven't actioned it much, is just like moving further down the funnel. Like cold email is like the tippy top of the funnel, right?
Mm.
And like just innovating by doing some other sequences, like a sequence to an email to like someone as soon as they follow your LinkedIn company page.
Love it.
Like that's technically a second touch, right?
Yep.
Because they
Yep.
first touch, and they probably
Love it.
followed you on LinkedIn because of another touch that they received.
Yeah.
So like just trying to be a little bit more innovative without the email being the first touch,
Mm.
and then moving a little bit more down the funnel. And I think calling will help a lot with that. As soon as you add calling to your cadences, it basically becomes appointment setting.
Yeah.
From there.
So much space for innovation. People visiting your website, then you fire them a LinkedIn connection. If they go to that event, you can email them. We're still so 0.01% deep in the field. Sometimes I pondered, like, I mean, I have my moonshots, respectively, like lifespan, for example. If we're all gonna die, then why not work on lifespan and try to extend the quality and the quantity of our years on this planet Earth? But also cold email, it's so far-fetched from this in terms of to the view of many, but to me it's a lab to test out startup ideas and to test out concepts, and it's also a deep dive into human psychology, which has always been my main passion, to understand how humans think and react, and emotions and all of that. So I guess it's a good engine to test out stuff. I guess the future, the upcoming future is, yes, the triggers that we've been mentioning, and lots of smart automations without mentioning the AI word. But talking about AIs, because it seemed to be accelerating, especially this year. How are you integrating AI into your cold email outreach business?
Yeah. So first, yeah, I love that you said that that like use email as a way of testing, and that it's a way of human psychology. Like I see it the exact same way, and it's so interesting when you see when you do a lot of cold email yourself, and you see all the different kinds of replies that you get. And because we're so data focused and we've done cold email across so many different industries, it's really cool now. Over the years, we've picked up trends on like for example, if you're a CTO or you're an engineer, you absolutely hate a cold email. But if you're like an HR person,
CSO.
yeah, well, like if you're an HR person, generally people in HR, like they seem to enjoy cold emails. I don't know.
Salespeople also, but you surprisingly you get haters sometimes also, and these are most of the time low producing folks that are kind of jealous of what you do. But salespeople, I mean, that's a very small minority. Sales folks are, yeah, obviously my favorite, but yeah, I'm biased.
Yeah, to answer your AI question, as soon as GPT-3 became a thing, which I think was almost 2 years ago now, maybe 18 months, I emailed the CTO. I watched this YouTube video of how to get into the beta, and it was this guy saying, "This is the CTO on Twitter. There's this one tweet where he gave someone his email, so here's his email, and you can email him." So I cold emailed the CTO of OpenAI and then I was like, "Hey, we're this small outreach agency in Africa. We'll probably be the only African company." Like I just played the Africa card. And he replied, and we got into the beta like 2 days later.
Nice.
And then we were fiddling with GPT-3 for quite some time, in two areas, obviously with copy, and then another one was actually using it quite extensively for data cleaning.
Okay.
So the one
interesting
is like when you have so many, the one thing that's different is obviously you have company size and you have industry, but job titles are all so super different. Like you have a head of finance, a financial manager, a CFO, or like there's so many different job titles for things that are quite similar.
Yeah.
So we had this field what we called cleaned title,
Love
and
it.
we used some machine learning algorithms to basically like categorize and clean up these titles to otherwise you just have title overload
Love
to
it.
help us. And we still use it. We still use that today. And then now with ChatGPT, it's obviously become a lot easier. We've incorporated into our writing process. Obviously, like the human element is like if you ask ChatGPT to just write cold email by itself, it's maybe a 3-4 out of 10 email at best. Yeah, you have to put in like a really good prompt to get it to maybe a 6, and then you need your writer to edit it. So writing, we've put it in, but then also just general productivity across the business. Like we make sure that like everyone is just using it all the time. Like I use it daily. It just simply makes you more productive. I don't know how you guys use it.
Myself, my team, we're using it for ideas, right? Getting ideas. What are the angles we can hit with this copy? Inspiration type of warming up the brain. That's it for now, right? And me on the innovation front, I'm testing a bunch of tools. So yeah, the ChatGPT was deployed through Bing. I just signed up. There's Sparrow as well. There's Baird. I'm gonna test them all. Use it for the pod as well, for some podcasts, from inspiration purely, some kind of assistant to help me be creative when I need to. You talked about over innovation. Sometimes when I put my brain into innovation mode, I'm guilty of that. Have too much ideas and not enough focus. So I like being in focus mode. And when I need creativity, I just stimulate it by asking GPT some questions. We got a couple minutes left, so I want to rapid fire you because I had a list of questions I wanted to go through and I have another call. So I'll call 5 minutes late because I really want to ask those. First rapid fire question. How are South African employees and how are South African customers? And by the way, I think that the answer could be similar, but yeah, that's my first rapid fire.
Yeah, I would say I'll give one answer for both questions. I definitely think we have this like South African mindset where people's ceilings are a little bit lower than where they maybe should be or where they can be. Like if you go to the US or you go into more first world places, people have a lot more like confidence and belief that they can do anything and they can create a unicorn. Whereas I think South Africa, the general mindset is like a lot more limited. Both customers and employees can do so much more than they believe. And that's something that we really try and drive quite a lot internally.
Yeah, I guess a good one-liner would be converting USD into Rand.
Yeah,
that's the mindset. I've observed it too, from both perspectives. Other rapid fire question for you: what are the most interesting offers that you are pitching either with Fuel to Fly or some of your clients that you've been noticing? This could be offering guarantees or, like talking about reducing costs while 2xing the performance. What are your top offers that you've been sending lately and getting positive responses?
Yeah, so to be honest, like our offering is very straightforward, right? It's called Outreach as a service, and we do everything. Obviously, we also have the product side to our business, which is all of your analytics, and then we iterate on everything for you. What has been interesting is the different audiences we've been reaching out to. So like what we found is because everyone wants to send a cold email to a recently funded SaaS company, we find they're probably the worst audience to reach out to because they get absolutely bombarded with cold outreach. So it's more like just different different audiences. We found a lot of traction in working with venture capital funds in helping them raise money from LPs.
Okay,
And that's
love it.
Our data's exploded. Like our average reply rates are like 2-3 times as high when we reach out to VCs. I mean, when we reach out to LPs for VCs than in our normal like B2B customer base.
Love it. I have the VC Wisdom podcast, and we've also been hitting that. Basically, I'm gonna raise a fund also probably next year. As I see that as my finality. Well, not my finality, but my next evolution. You also see yourself getting into these other fields and coming maybe have a comeback in finance in a couple of years. Where do you see Fuel to Fly going?
Yeah, I mean, Fuel to Fly, we've got a really good core offering, I think, and I like what we've done and what we're innovating in the cold outreach space. So I don't really want to. I mean, I just how we were saying, we're resistant to change. Like I don't want to change it too much, but we are in process of launching almost like a side brand or another business that is going to double down on working within the finance space, just because of the results we've seen when we work with customers in that industry.
All right, love it. Well, not wanting to take you too far into time. So basically, Daniel, thank you for coming today. It was a nice convo. Where can people find out more about you and Fuel to Fly?
Yeah, it was very cool chatting with you as well, Charles. I love the way you think. So they can reach out to us just through our website, fueltofly.com. If you search my name on LinkedIn, Daniel Greaves, Greaves, and the Fuel to Fly, you'll find me on LinkedIn. But yeah, just website and LinkedIn, even ping us on our page. Yeah, that's just the normal channels.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Charles. Good chatting.